Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy here for Whimsy Stamps. Thanks for joining me today. I am visiting a new to me technique. Actually, I'm revisiting this technique. I'm still trying to perfect it. I think it's beautiful, but I'm struggling with it. So I wanted to share my process with you today. This is the vintage watercolor technique, and I am going to share 10 tips with you on how to salvage this if it should go awry for you, as it does for me. So, the first thing I will say is that you want to embrace the unpredictability. So, if you are someone who needs control or if you seek perfection, this may not be the technique for you. I like unpredictable art and I really love this. I can't wait until I take my own tips and master this technique. But mastery takes time, right? It takes practice, it takes perseverance and persistence. So, all right, so that is tip number one, embrace the unpredictability. Step number two is to keep your stamp in your positioning platform, your stamping platform. Whatever platform you use, leave the stamp in there. And I would also say for tip number three to choose a stamp with very little detail and lots of open space. And to keep in mind that Speedball colors, the, oh my gosh, what is this pen called? The Elegant Rider, the Speedball Elegant Rider. Those colors can really overwhelm the space. So you want to have lots of open space. So what I was showing you was exactly how that Elegant Rider bleeds. It's beautiful. So this technique really embraces the reactability of the oxide inks. I don't know if you caught that in the beginning that I was stamping this with oxide ink. And so it embraces the reactability of the oxide inks and the unique properties of the Elegant Rider, which is a speedball pen. And it's in the color black, but it bleeds out in all those other beautiful colors. There's pinks and purples and blues and greens. It's so very pretty. So embrace the unpredictability, keep your stamp in your platform, choose a stamp with little detail and lots of open space, and you only need a little bit of the Elegant Rider. So I don't know if you noticed, but I put Elegant Rider down in lots of places. Because this is a very detailed stamp, which I should not have chosen, but I did, so I just rolled with it. And I really could have just put like little dash lines or little tick marks instead of solid lines. Now this space right here turns out the best of the entire project. But showing myself grace and learning and growing and sharing my tips with you, yeah, because I learn as I go. So, all right. So another thing that I would say is don't force the inks or the colors to blend. You want to just use a lot of clean water and take your very small paintbrush. I think I have a number 2 round. It might be a 0. No, it's a number 2 round. And just go along the edges with nice clear water. You'll see me reaching up into my water bowl over and over and then tapping off on my towel to the right. So really just letting that water do what it's going to do and get those inks to react and to move and to blend however they choose. You don't want to force it. And you want to allow the inks that open space so that they can do what they're going to do. And I showed you how the inks were kind of bleeding out. It's going to do that more and more until it completely dries. It's going to continue to bleed. And bleed in this case is a good thing. Now, this particular leaf or petal, as well as that open space right here that I'm going in, they also work pretty well. Now you can see that larger space there to the right. You see how there's pinks and purples in there? Those weren't there a minute ago. It was very much just the blues and the greens and the browns. So next tip I would say, if you want to enhance it, if you want to change the colors a little bit, bring in some watercolor, something that's water reactive. In this case, I'm using my Daniel Smith, I'm sorry. These are very intense pigments. So you can use these, you can use ink tints, you can use any kind of watercolor pencil or crayon, and just add a little bit of pigment to your project wherever you might want to intensify or add some color. Then, after you get everything looking the way you want it, you'll notice that you will obliterate your details, as I have done. If they're not completely obliterated, they're definitely going to be smudged. So, this is why we keep our stamp in the stamping platform, because you're going to go back and you're going to re-ink. Now, if depending on the project that you've used or the stamp that you've used, you might just need to stamp in black ink, or maybe some more of the oxide that you stamped with in the beginning. In my case, I decided that I was going to use my next tip, which is to heat emboss. So I used my Versamark ink, and then I used some rose gold embossing powder from Wow, and just heated that up. I made sure that my whole panel was dry before I added the embossing powder. I used my heat gun just to dry it completely, and I didn't want that embossing powder sticking where I didn't want it, because I already have a mess. And the mess really is just because all of the colors just blended too much. I didn't have the open space that I needed to make this work right. But again, we're learning and we're growing and we're salvaging, right? We're salvaging this process. So we used our watercolors to go in and intensify some color, and then we re-stamped. And then, because we needed to add even more of those details in, we did the heat embossing. And I like to go along my edges and grunge them up. That's just something that I like. You don't have to do that. I also used my decal hand scissors instead of a decal edge trimmer. I know those are kind of big right now, but these old scissors, I've had them forever, and just put them back to use. So my next tip would be to cover those trouble areas that remain. As you can see, I still have some that remain. You want to cover those areas with strategically placed die cut sentiments or embellishments or ribbons or anything of that nature. So here, as I construct my card, you can see I have that brown card base. This is a 5x7 card. I'm putting a white panel on the inside, and I have all of my layers. They're all pre-cut, and I'm just using some tape runner to adhere my stamped and painted and embossed panel down to a white panel. And I trim off that excess on the top and on the left, and then I will layer that up on the black panel. And then I will put that ribbon, I'll put it across the very bottom of the green panel, because I just want to add some detail, and yeah, I just like it. So I taped it to the back, and then I used the tape runner to tape the green panel down to the brown card base. And I used a little bit of glue to adhere my ribbon down, and I held it in place with my tweezers. My tweezers are one of my most used tools in my craft room. And so after a little bit of fussing and fidgeting, I got my panel in place. Everything is all lined up, and now here you can see that I'm using my sentiments to cover up what is still kind of a trouble place. So you can see the areas that worked really well and the areas that didn't work so well for this particular technique. I think the rest of the card looks great. The colors are beautiful. The embossing really enhances that and add the detail back in. But again, I'm still learning. So I salvaged this panel because it was going to go in the trash. But I remember that I always tell you guys, don't throw it away. There's a way to fix it. And so I found a way to fix it. 10 tips. I will have them listed downstairs in case you missed any of them. I will also have all of my products used downstairs. Really, it's just the Big Bumble stamp and then the Sweet and the Friend word dies. So actually a very simple project. I just had to salvage it, and I thank you guys for sticking around with me and learning this process with me and showing me grace as I show myself grace. I encourage you to do the same every time, all day, every day. Thanks for joining me here on the Whimsy Stamps channel. I hope you'll join us over on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, drop me a comment downstairs, like, and I will see you next time, guys. This has been Nancy, the Handy Scandy, for Whimsy Stamps, and I'm out.